Necas. The slot turns it across. Oh, they'll score! There's the urgency and a power play goal. The Canes set it up. And it gets knocked down again. Seth Jarvis from off. Andersen around the boards. Up for Jarvis. Jarvis. He's got Johnson to the front of the net. They score! Blake, a sharp angle. Tarasov doesn't know where it is. He scores! That'll be taken away. Blake, and the score! Sebastian Aho, wasting no time on the out of the box. Comes Staal. He'll make a play to 2-on-1. Jarvis, he's got Martinook. Jarvis, Martinook. He scores! Jordan Martinook hammers it home. It started with a captain, and it's finished with the alternate captain. Jordan Martinook gets 5-2, an offensive explosion here at Lenovo Center.
Hi, everyone. I'm Adam Golden. This is the Canes Corner podcast. We are live on YouTube, as we are after every Hurricanes game, at least the ones that I'm at, or can watch, or can get to the interwebs immediately after. Thank you very much. We're brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it's for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. No place like it. Sammy Hanna and Screw do a great job. And for those of you, actually, I don't know if they go to all these places. Pleasant Garden, shouts to you in Pleasant Garden in Charlotte. I ain't gonna help you in Charlotte. Buncombe, not really sure where Buncombe is. I'm not new. I've been here, nearly 30 years. Let's see, Asheville. I know where that is. They're not gonna help you in Asheville. Greenville, maybe, probably not. Rose Hill, also. That's down east too, right? Paul in Dublin. I know there was a question as to whether or not that was Dublin, Ohio. Paul be in Dublin, Ireland. We are an international Canes Corner podcast. Hope everybody is doing well. That was a wild game. Just an absolutely wild game. This game is not allowed to drive home alone. This game needs to Uber home, because at least the second period needs to Uber home. That was bonkers. I did suggest that we would do this entire podcast using yakety sax, but because it will air also as a podcast, we are not licensed to use any of that music, so we can't use yakety sax. We did play it on the post-game show. My man Rusty did that. I don't even know what to say real quick about the game other than it was a crazy second period. Carolina just emptied the barrels on Columbus. At one point, the Hurricanes, this is actually before they made it 5, because remember, the fifth goal, the Martinook goal, came after a power play. We'll talk about after a Columbus power play. We'll talk about the period in a minute. But at one point, the Hurricanes were out shooting the Blue Jackets 17-0 in the period, and we hadn't even played half the period yet. This is before Columbus went on the power play. Like, no joke. Before the Blue Jackets got to their power play in the second period, the Hurricanes had outshot them 17-0 in the period. It went from 13-7 Columbus on the shot chart in the first period to 24-13 Carolina. It was cray-cray. So let's see what we can get to here tonight. And again, thank you very much for joining us. I'll try to, if we can get to some comments, we will, but see if we can clear a lot of stuff off the deck here in about 30 minutes. I'm not really sure that I have seen Carolina do that to what I believe to be a good team. Now, Columbus was not whole tonight. No Cole Sillinger, no Kevin LeBanc. And then I think Justin Danforth left the game in the third period. So Columbus, who was already playing with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen, were down to 10 forwards. I often think that stuff is overrated unless you're missing really key guys. And I actually think Kevin LeBanc and to a large extent Cole Sillinger are important pieces for them. But it wasn't like they were missing their, heavy weaponry. They had Adam Fantilli, they had Karil Marchenko, they had Kent Johnson. They have some good players. They had Zach Werenski, who was awesome tonight. But so it was a slight, loss for the Blue Jackets in the game. But the Hurricanes, who I didn't think played, I know it's going to sound weird. I didn't think they played awful in the first period. I thought the first part of the first period, if I could refer to my notes, the first part of the first period, Martin Necas in tight, great chance. Just either I think Daniil Tarasov got his shoulder to it, but at the very least, it just was outside the far post. Jordan Staal had a rebound chance, just jump over a stick, and in the same sequence, ended up alone in front, and Tarasov had to make a great pad save. Right, so the Hurricanes had 2 or 3 really good scoring chances early, and then really back-to-back mistakes. Jackson Blake turned the puck over inside his own blue line. It became the Kent Johnson goal. That's the goal tonight that Frederik Andersen really needed to get. He didn't. 1-0. And then not too long after that, there is a puck really just sitting inside the blue line, inside Carolina's blue line. And Jordan Martinook skates right past it. And he's going over to try to lay a body check on Karil Marchenko. But you know what? The puck's there. Why not just get that out of the zone? Skates right over it. Doesn't really get enough of Marchenko to knock him out of the play. And the puck ends up back on Marchenko's stick because Brent Burns kind of went on walkabout, out of position. He almost got the pass across, but he didn't. Again, out of position. And it's behind Freddie Andersen. It's 2-0. And again, to that point, other than those 2 mistakes, I kind of thought that Carolina might have been the better team. But I think those 2 goals really deflated them because Danforth came in alone on Freddie already after 2-0. Andersen makes a good glove save on that. Carolina wasn't done because Necas had another great chance on the power play. The worst 90 seconds we have seen all year on Carolina's power play. The worst. But they did get a couple of good looks later on in the power play because they kept having to go retreat for the puck. Like the top unit played the entire 2 minutes. But Necas, man, Tarasov makes a great save. It goes off the arm and then off the crossbar. Again, as poorly as it might have seemed, I didn't think it was an awful first period. Wasn't good, but I don't think it was as bad as people thought because Carolina had some opportunities to score. And the truth of the matter is that Columbus didn't get a lot of scoring chances tonight. They just didn't. And while they had a bunch of shots on goal in the period, I think Carolina still had better scoring chances, just that Columbus turned 2 of theirs into goals, and the Hurricanes didn't. And then we get to the second period, and it was starting in a way that was going to make you think that, man, maybe this ain't our night. And before I continue, I do want to point out that Columbus is good. Like, I don't think they're great, but I think they are absolutely capable of being a playoff team. And not just a playoff team in the Eastern Conference the way it is, but coming in their last 16 games, they were 11-3-2. And in 11 of those 16 games, they scored at least 4 goals. It's been crazy. And, they put up 4 tonight. So it's the 12th time in the last 17 games that the Blue Jackets have scored at least 4 times. But here's the beginning of the period. Aho robbed in transition. Who was the pass from? Where was it? I think it was Svechnikov. Passed it across to Blake, to Svechnikov, across to Aho. One-timer. If he elevates it a little bit more, it's a goal, but Tarasov gets all the way across and makes an acrobatic, athletic save. Then I think Jarvis was robbed also on before the power play. I think it was before the power play goal where Jarvis is robbed. I mean, 2 unbelievable scoring chances right away. No, Jarvis was robbed after the power play goal. But Carolina gets an early power play in the second period. Sebastian Aho finds Seth Jarvis. That wasn't great until the goal either, by the way. And I don't believe Carolina's power play has been healed because they got another power play later, and that was bad too. But Jarvis' power play goal, man, he's in the right spot. Aho makes a great pass across, and Carolina's on the board. Right, that goal happened at 2:48 of the first period. All right, Martin Necas gets the secondary helper on it. So then after Jarvis is robbed on a pass across from Staal that would have made it 2-2. This is after he scored to make it 2-1. Tarasov robbed Staal, and then Jarvis there for the rebound, and I forget who the defender was, but he just got stick on stick, and Jarvis couldn't get anything on it. He might have whiffed it altogether. So there's all these chances to score, and you knew at this point, okay, the Hurricanes are going to easily get this game even. Didn't take very long after that because I think it was on the same shift where Staal to Jarvis was robbed, and then Staal was robbed and Jarvis was bothered on that rebound. It was a partial change. Jarvis is still on the ice, and he comes down the left side, pass across to Eric Robinson, a great, elite, just redirect finish over top of Tarasov to make it 2-2. That goal came at 7:11. Carolina was even. Then, bump-up shift. It's the Aho line. Actually, that might not have been that shift that the Aho line. I guess it was. Off an offensive zone faceoff. No, I think the bump-up shift was the Kotkaniemi line. The next shift, Aho wins a draw back to Jackson Blake, who just flings it at the net, and it goes through Tarasov and in. There's traffic, but those are deceptive shots, right? So the first goal is 7:11. The next goal is 7:58. And then the bump-up shift is Aho, Blake, Svechnikov. Blake steals the puck from Werenski. He leaves it for Aho. Quick, spinning, wrist shot. Boom. It's 4-2. Those 3 goals, the Robinson goal in transition from Jarvis, the Blake goal off the faceoff from Aho, the Aho goal off the steal from Blake, 1 minute and 22 seconds apart. 1:22. They scored 4 in 5:45, and then Jordan Staal takes a penalty. Staal goes off. Carolina's got to kill a power play, got to kill a Columbus power play, which they did very well, even without the captain. He comes out of the box. Ivan Provorov has the puck at the left point. Staal just barrels into him. Provorov loses the puck. Staal gets it to Jarvis, who gets it across to Martinook for an incredibly cool finish, and it's 5-2. 11:34 were played of the second period, and Carolina scored 5 times. The Hurricanes scored those 5 goals in a span of 8:46, if my math is correct. It's incredible. At this point, we were spinning. And then Columbus scores twice, both on net front deflections. Could Freddie have done better? I mean, yes and no. First of all, anytime there's a deflection or a redirect, I mean, it's really hard to blame the goalie unless you're way too deep. And I don't really think that was the case on either of the deflections. First of all, there's no way he saw the first deflection. Was it the Van Riemsdyk goal was the first? I think the Van Riemsdyk goal was the second one. I think the Voronkov goal was the first one. And I think both of the deflections, well, that one there was definitely traffic on. The second one, the puck was well outside the framework of the net. And it was just an incredible deflection by Van Riemsdyk. Anyway, it's 5-4. And in some ways you're thinking, well, there's a lot of good work for nothing, but you still have the lead. But then you had to go out and earn the third period. You couldn't coast home because Columbus has already proven over, not just tonight, but over the course of the last 4 weeks, they can score goals. I watched them last night in Toronto, and I didn't think they were awesome, but they scored 5. One of them was an empty net goal. So they scored 4 past Joseph Woll. And again, I thought Toronto was probably the better team with more scoring chances, more shots on goal, things like that. But Columbus scored 4 times. So, I mean, Columbus can play. They're still in a playoff spot. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs or not, but I think it's a pretty good team. But Carolina led 5-4 after the period. We get out to the third. I thought Columbus is pretty good early. Carolina, I don't think there were a lot of chances, though, for the Blue Jackets. And then this was, to me, one of the cooler goals of the night. And there were a lot of cool goals tonight. It was really a mistake and a turnover behind the Columbus's net, kind of an unforced turnover. But then Necas won a little bit of a physical battle. The puck was loose if you're looking at the goal, to the left of Tarasov. Necas wins the physical battle to get to the puck. He lays a beautiful quick pass to Kotkaniemi, who's coming on down the right side. And Jesperi didn't waste any time, man. He just let fly, right? One-timer off the pass, boom. And it's 6-2. His 4th goal in his last 3 games. 2nd time in his Hurricanes career, going back to, I believe, the 21-22 season, his first year, where he scored in 3 straight games. Only the 2nd time in his Hurricanes career. That made it 6-4. We're pretty much done at that point, but you don't know. And then the Seth Jarvis Benz goal, the backhand empty net sauce goal, that I thought was actually a pretty smart play, because I just seen Dmitry Orlov and then one other player, might have been Aho, try for the cage, the empty net, and they got the shots knocked down. And Jarvis, if he shoots it with his forehand, probably gets it blocked. He just flipped the puck over to his backhand and flipped it on net. It was beautiful. And that's the 7-4 final. So let's talk about a few things here about the game. I basically just spent all of that time just going through the goals. So let's talk about a couple of quick concepts here. Power play goals are allowed. It was good to discover that. The Hurricanes, second one in their last, I think they were 1 for 3 tonight, second in their last 34 power plays. By the way, tonight, Carolina got even in their special teams goals in 2025. So now they have 2 power play goals in 2025 and 2 shorthanded goals in 2025. Ideally, you would like more power play goals than shorthanded goals. I know I'm new at this, but I think that's really what you would like. But it's good to know the penalty kill is still good. But the power play goal, maybe that'll loosen them up a little bit, because at least now they've scored it. Great pass from Aho. All right, next. In spite of the early turnover, ain't it pretty evident that Jackson Blake belongs playing with elite players? Not that Jackson Blake can't score, playing with Jack Drury and right now Juha Jaska on a 4th line. But here's the way I look at it. Jack Roslovic can too, right? I think, for my money, I'd rather have Jackson Blake play minutes with Sebastian Aho and Andrei Svechnikov than Jack Roslovic play there. I think Blake's a better player today than Roslovic. I think he's a significantly better player today than Roslovic, and that's not a slight on Roslovic. And that's just the way I feel about Blake. So I think he belongs mostly on that top line. I think there will be times during games where Brind'Amour will put somebody else up there, because I'm not sure you want Blake playing 19, 20 minutes a night. Now, he doesn't kill penalties. Sebastian Aho does that. Andre doesn't kill penalties either. But, man, I thought Blake was great tonight. I actually think he's been the best player on that line now for 3 games that it's been together. So more of that, I'd be happy with that. I've said this before. I know it sounds weird. I think Seth Jarvis belongs with Jordan Martinook and Jordan Staal. I think his natural inclination is to play the same way they play. Jarvis really is a north-south player. And that's all Martinook and Staal are. I think he absolutely fits there. The scoring chances that normally we see Staal and Martinook create, Jarvis creates too. I think he is a great fit on that line. I think we are also seeing that because that line creates scoring chances because they've got the puck all the time, not only in the opposing end, but a lot of times behind the goal. Jarvis is going to get plenty of scoring chances on that line, and he helps create them too. So I think he belongs there, even when William Carrier comes back. And you could throw Carrier on a 4th line, and then at times during the game, you could put Jarvis up with Aho and Svechnikov and give Blake a little bit of a rest, because I don't think he's ready to play 18, 19 minutes a night in the National Hockey League. You still get him playing with top players. But again, I love Jordan Staal, Jordan Martinook, and Seth Jarvis. I love that line. And isn't it cool when you can get Kotkaniemi, Robinson, and Necas playing the way they're playing? I don't think it was vintage. Kotkaniemi scores a goal. We talked about that already. 4th goal in 3 games. First time he's had, or second time as a Hurricane, he's got goals in 3 straight. I thought it was a good game from Kotkaniemi, and this is what Carolina needs to see. They need to see 82 stack a whole bunch of good games together. We can't have, here he scores a goal, and then for 3 games doesn't do much, and then he gets an assist, and then for 3 games he doesn't do much. I mean, it did give the puck away a couple of times tonight, including a bad one in the middle of the offensive zone. But, I mean, he wasn't alone. I mean, Sebastian Aho had 3 giveaways tonight. But this is the best sustained stretch of the season for Kotkaniemi, and it's really only been like 4 games or something like that where he was really very good. I thought the best player on that line, and I loved Robinson tonight, but in retrospect, I think we're starting to see, even though he can't score, it seems like nobody's making better saves. Nobody has better saves made against him than Necas night in and night out. I mean, Necas had 2 great looks, didn't score either time, but he also made that great pass to Kotkaniemi for the 6th goal. I thought Marty was good tonight, really good tonight, except in the power play. When I know they scored a power play goal, but I don't think the power play's really healed at this point. But that line has been effective because that line has been heavy. And I talked to Eric Robinson before the game. He said, look, everybody on the line knows their role. Okay. Now that that's established, go out and repeat that over and over and over and over again. And if Kotkaniemi can play a heavy game, I mean, he's 6'3", 210 pounds. He should be able to do that. go play a heavy game. Robinson is all speed and no frills. And if Necas does his fancy Dan skating, let him do it. But I still think we're right now, it looks to me like we're starting to see the Necas who played the first, 20 games of the season. And even if he doesn't score a ton of goals, like in some ways, a lot of the goals that Necas scored or set up were somewhat lucky. Like, there were some goalies that would like shots back, and there was some good fortune. Either way, he was playing in a manner that essentially, served to create those opportunities. And I think we're starting to see that come back. So they still haven't gotten him, back scoring a bunch of goals, but he is certainly creating assists. He's got 39 assists now on the season. 39 assists, I believe, on the season. So nobody's complaining about Martin Necas. And again, thought he played a good game. I also thought he made some good defensive plays in his own end. He skated. He had a one back check. He also had a defensive play where he stole a puck with his skates. We're just in good position. And if you're in good position, good things are going to happen. So that line was good. All four lines were good tonight. The Aho, Blake, Svechnikov line was tremendous, and the Staal line was great. But, I thought Rod could have put any line out just about at any time, and it would have been fine. So check out the numbers, these numbers from Natural Stat Trick. And these are it just shows you what kind of domination it really was tonight. Look, nobody's surprised. The Hurricanes won the possession game. Simple Corsi, 85-4, 37 against. This is all at 5-on-5, by the way. Actually, this is not 5-on-5. This is all situations because I set it up that way. Shots on goal, 43-22. Remember, 43-22 shots on goal. It was 13-7 Columbus after the first period. So if you want to do that math, that's fine. It was 36-9 in favor of the Hurricanes, shots on goal the rest of the way. 36-9 in the second and third period. Scoring chances, simple scoring chances from Natural Stat Trick. Hurricanes 44, Columbus 9. In the simple scoring chances, these are not high danger ones. They incorporate some high danger ones. Normally, the Hurricanes give up 15, 20 a game, maybe a little bit more. 44-9. And then in high danger, again, this is Natural Stat Trick, all situations, 22-6 in favor of the Hurricanes. It was a dominant performance. The first period, not great, but it also wasn't nearly as bad as the scoreboard indicated. But I get it. The scoreboard matters the most. And you play a good start, you don't get anything out of it, and then you give up 2 goals, basically on your own mistakes. Giving Columbus a little bit of credit, though, I do think they forced the Blake turnover for the first goal. The second goal, I thought Carolina really made a mess of it. Again, Martinook should have played the puck. He didn't. And ultimately, Brent Burns loses coverage on Marchenko. And one quick thing about Brent Burns, because I have zero problem saying that I think for the most part, Brent's been really good this year. It's unfortunate because Brent is paid to score goals and get assists. And that really hasn't been there this year. So the element that you hope to get from Burns, you're not. What I think you're getting is somebody who's been great on the penalty kill and somebody who, at least for the first 30 or so games, was really good defensively. And admittedly, this has not been a great stretch of his right now. I realize that Hurricanes Twitter, which is passionate, they have decided that Brent Burns is the worst player in hockey, and it doesn't matter if anybody else makes a mistake on that goal. It will be Brent Burns' fault. Now, he was certainly partially responsible for 2-0 Columbus. Nobody's denying that. But we already documented the initial mistake, which was made by Jordan Martinook. And Martinook gets the benefit of the doubt from me forever. So I ain't banging him. I ain't banging Burns. And Freddie Andersen really couldn't do anything about it. Marchenko's now got 9 goals in 10 games against Carolina. That was his 5th of the season series. 5 goals and 1 assist, I believe, in the 4 games against Carolina this year. So Burns is just going through it. And the truth of the matter is that I thought that while that was a mistake that led to a goal, I thought Burns had 3 or 4 other, like, what are you doing moments in a game, while at the same time making a lot of really good plays. So he's kind of been all over the map. And by the way, I think Hurricanes fans are going to be really, really mad when the team signs him to a 1-year extension. Now, I don't think that'll happen until after the season, but I actually expect Brent Burns to be back on the team next year. I think they like him. I think they see him as still a good player. I don't think it will cost a lot of money, but I will tell you this. I think the Hurricanes are going to have some competition for Brent Burns in the offseason. It's something that if you really want to keep him, you're probably going to have to get to him early, and you might have to do 2 years. Don't know. I don't think it'll be longer than that, and I think to what Carolina would like would be for it to be a 1-year deal. But, yeah, don't be surprised. I'm telling you. Also, if I'm the Hurricanes, I'm re-signing Eric Robinson, and I wouldn't wait till the end of the season. I would make that guy part of my team for the next few years. 2-year deal, 3-year deal, I don't know. I don't think Robinson's going to cost a ton of money, but I think Robinson is a valuable player for this group. Speed, aggression, north-south, really good. Really good. All right, we've gone over 30 minutes, but I'm going to spend this time on the JT Miller situation. All right. Here's what I know, and here's what I think. Have the Hurricanes been engaged in conversations with the Vancouver Canucks? Yes. Do I think Carolina will engineer a trade for JT Miller? No, I don't. That doesn't mean that they have not, been stoking the flames a little bit. I think they have. But ultimately, there are 2 things that I think are holding this back. And look, there's probably a little bit of all 3. We talked about the fact that the personality of Miller, this would be his 4th team, started with the Rangers, went to Tampa, then to Vancouver, and he's going to go somewhere. He's going to get moved. So this would be his 4th team. Might be his 3rd team if he ends up back in New York, which is really where he wants to go. So there's the personality factor. If a player like that can't play for Rick Tocchet, then that would be an alarm, right? But I think Carolina's locker room could handle it. And I know the head coach loves JT Miller as a player because when the Hurricanes played Vancouver, we talked about Miller, and Rod went, that's their guy, meaning that's their best player, not Elias Pettersson. I know it's going to sound weird. Last year, when Elias Pettersson was going through his contract squabble with the team, and the rumors were that Jim Rutherford, had been talking to Tom Dundon about a trade for Elias Pettersson. I don't believe for a single second that the Hurricanes were really going to trade for Elias Pettersson. I think Dundon allowed Jim Rutherford to use trade talks as leverage, because as soon as that news hit, suddenly Pettersson signed a deal. And Pettersson wants to stay in Vancouver. I think the team wants to keep him. He's an elite offensive player. I don't think he's had a great year this year, but I haven't paid a ton of attention to Vancouver. I know he wasn't lighting it up, I think, when Vancouver was here a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, I think the head coach would love JT Miller on his team. I don't think the personality is really a problem. I think the two problems are, what would the acquisition cost be? And the Hurricanes do not want to give up their first-round pick. They do not want to give up a top prospect, and it would cost that. And they don't want to give up another asset, aside from having to send NHL players across in the deal. And I'm sure everybody has seen the speculation, Kotkaniemi and Roslovic for Miller, but it wouldn't be Kotkaniemi and Roslovic for Miller. It would be Kotkaniemi and Roslovic and one of your best prospects and a first-round pick and then something else. And I don't believe for a second that Tom Dundon is going to do that. I just don't. Now, if Vancouver got to a point where they simply had to unload Miller and the Hurricanes could get away with like a prospect and a second, yeah, I think they could. And then the only drawback, not for me, but for the team, is that Miller will be 32 in March, and he's still got 5 years left on the deal after, which means at the end of the deal, he's 37. Okay, the deal is not prohibitive. I don't think the money really is prohibitive. Carolina just has to make the money match this year. But the salary cap's going up, and Carolina's got a ton of money coming off the books. But I don't believe that they think that JT Miller will be the same caliber of a player in the last 3 years of that deal. That's just a guess. Everybody ages differently. But JT Miller is the type of player that Carolina needs, flat out. And if they don't need it this year, they just need it. They need it next year. They need it the year after. They need it the year after that. Miller is a better version of Sam Bennett. And I've talked about Bennett before. He was a player Carolina could have had 4 years ago and didn't think he was better than Warren Fogle. I mean, you can think what you want. Sam Bennett is better than Warren Fogle. I don't think there's any question about that. But I think that's where we are. And I know Frank Saravalli talked about it. Hurricanes are definitely in. But he also said the Hurricanes were in on other players too. And I will say this. While Carolina doesn't like to, they really don't. Their history is not mid-season acquisitions. But I do think that they are having conversations around the league, and they are looking for, as Don Waddell used to say, a good hockey trade. They are happy to make a hockey move, which is why last year was so out of character for them. Not only did they sign free agents at the beginning of the season, but they went and got a rental. Although they did get that rental thinking that they would be able to re-sign Jake Guentzel at the end of the season. As it turned out, they didn't. That was their fault, not Guentzel's fault. That deal should have been done before Jake Guentzel started chatting with other teams. But I think Carolina would be interested in a hockey trade. I just don't think that they're going to go to the lengths that they're likely going to have to go to get JT Miller. Even though, again, I think he's exactly the type of player Carolina needs. And I'm not sure, have I exhausted everything? I did see some comments about, because I do 3 stars of the game and the player of the game, which is essentially a 4th star, but it's a floating star, if you will. My 3 stars were 3rd, Aho. He won about half his faceoffs, 7 shots for the game, 6 shots on goal in the second period. I thought he and Jarvis was the best player all night. Aho was awesome in the second period. Jackson Blake got my 2nd star, and Seth Jarvis, to me, was the best player in the game. My player of the game, it's kind of a 4th star, but it's sort of like usually for maybe a play, a moment here and there. It's very random. And again, I've loved Eric Robinson the last several games. I love the way he plays. I think he is a valuable part of this team. And frankly, I don't think they're as good without him. I really don't. He's got enough skill to be dangerous, but he is fast. He is straight up and down the ice. There is nothing fancy. There's no side to side with Eric Robinson. I think he's made that line good again. So, wish I hadn't said it like that. But I do. I think he has made Kotkaniemi and Necas better. And that's a great thing to say about a teammate. I think Robinson does make other players around him just a little bit better. That's what happens when you play fast and you play a hard game. And I think without being necessarily a super physical player, I think Robinson plays a hard game. And there you go. Freddie wasn't great tonight. I thought he was good other than the first goal. He didn't have to make a bunch of saves. Oh, real quick. Said it on the postgame show. I didn't want to forget it here. Let's be honest. If Andersen doesn't stop Sean Walker first and then Zach Werenski at the end of the first period, it's probably 3-0. And 3-0, chances are you're not coming back from it. Now, all things that happened in the second period, everything's going to be different. You go into the period with a different mindset if you're down 3. But good chance you lose the game. Very good chance. All of that stuff in the second period doesn't happen. Again, my philosophy on sports, frankly, on everything in life, is that it's just a chain of events. One thing leads to something else. If something else happens here, something different happens next. I think that's life and that's sports for sure. And that'll do it. We went way long, too long, on the Canes Corner podcast, available wherever you get your podcast tomorrow. Give us a rating and a review. Give us 5 stars. I'll read it. I read Apple, right? I read the Apple pods. My podcaster of choice is Apple Podcasts. So give us a 5-star review, and I'll say nice things about you. Is that fair? Again, we're here on YouTube after every Hurricanes game. YouTube.com/Canes Corner, or wherever you get your podcasts every day, or after every game, we're there. We used to call it the morning after pod, but we started doing these the evening after. So whatever. That's it. See everybody Saturday. Canes and the Islanders on Saturday. Quick check of the standings. And let me, as we're sitting here, let's see what's going on in Seattle between the Capitals and the Kraken. Washington's got a 1-0 lead in the second period, and the Capitals have been something else. Carolina moves 3 points ahead of New Jersey for second place in the Metro, and Carolina still has a game in hand. Very cool. All right, we got to get out of here. Thanks to the Aluminum Company. Thanks to you. Thanks to Paul in Dublin, Ohio. You the man, Paul. Take care, everybody. See you Saturday.